Okay, so this is the first of my series of lectures on online for this course. So the first online class that I'm going to do is on information security, which is chapter 8. And information security, as we know, has been a predominantly featured thing in internet simply because of everybody accessing everybody else's information. Okay, so the security features are should be up to the mark, and there are a lot of problems with people who are trying to steal information from you, or people who are trying to divert information from one to another, so on and so forth. So let's talk about all the things about information security in this class. So security is an umbrella term used for policies, procedures, and any technical measures that are used to prevent unauthorized access to your computer or computers, alteration of data, or theft of data, or even physical damage to the information systems, like basically making computers incapacitated and so on and so forth. So that is basically security. When you say security, this is all it means. There are controls that companies do to provide to provide the inadvertence of security. They want to make sure that the computers and the information and the data are all secure. And the controls basically consist of various methods, certain policies that the companies enforce, and many organizational procedures that the companies ask their employees to follow. Basically, this is to ensure the safety of organizations' assets, to maintain the accuracy and reliability of the records that you have, information that you have, especially financial information, and also information about the strategy of the company, and so on and so forth. And also the adherence of the operational features so that management can maintain their standards. These are all different controls in the information security terms. So, why are these systems vulnerable in any place? So, the idea is that every computer is vulnerable. When I'm saying every computer, it means not only your regular computers, not only the laptops, not only the iPads and all those things, also the mobile phones that you have, the iWatches that you have, all these systems are vulnerable. The problem is the easy access of networks through the internet. But but we need the internet, so we have to live with it. But we have to enforce certain security controls and measures. That's the whole idea of this class. Because of hardware problems, there are breakdowns, configuration errors, improper use, and all these things are hardware problems. Software problems like programming errors, installation errors, unauthorized changes, all these are going to be software problems. And of course, disasters can lead to systems being vulnerable. Use of networks and computers outside a firm's control can be vulnerable. So, in these times, right, what we are doing right now, we are all at home. We're not going to the school and things like that or university to do the work. So, our computers are vulnerable right now because we do not have the same security the university can or an organization can provide. So we can only provide only small features when you're working from home. So use of networks from homes and use of computers from homes outside the firm's control can be a problem as well. Okay. Also, loss and theft of portable devices can lead to vulnerabilities as well. Okay. Now, the contemporary security challenges and vulnerabilities can be said in this way. So the clients, you have the clients, and these clients or can be having an unauthorized access, or they can do some access with some errors. The client are connected to the corporate servers using communication lines. This could be a variety. This could be internet. This could be mobile. This will be regular networks, and so on and so forth. And these communication lines can have problems. Problems like, we're going to talk a little more about all these. People can tap into these communication lines. They can use what are called sniffers and use sniffing methodologies to find out what is happening. So for instance, I can be outside your house in my car, and I can pretty much, using software, I can see what you're doing inside your house, what financial transactions you're going to do, what emails you're sending, who you're chatting with. All these things can be done very easily by certain softwares. So all these things can be happening, like these are called the tappings and sniffings. You can alter the message. You can do theft and fraud and all those kind of things as well, basically. So the communication lines are the ones where are very, very vulnerable. In the corporate servers, once we reach the corporate servers can be hacked. They can have malware, malicious software. These are called malware. Malwares or malicious softwares. You can have theft and fraud of corporate servers. You can have vandalism, denial of service, those kind of things. Denial of service basically is when you are authenticated, when you go to, let's say, Blackboard and use your user ID and password, which then you should be able to look at the Blackboard, right? But if it is denied with the right user ID and password, even after putting the right user ID and password, if it gets denied, that is denial of service attack. Okay, so all these things can happen in the corporate servers. In the corporate systems, where the servers are connected to each other, you can have databases with lots of information. Information can be like your grades, if you're working in Roosevelt University, your pay and all that stuff. These are all in the databases, right? And theft of those data, copying the data, altering the data, failures of hardware and softwares. These are also vulnerabilities. So basically, all these are the vulnerabilities and challenges that are posed on computers around the world. And every corporation, every organization, every house has to take precautionary measures so that information security is of utmost importance and nobody can steal or do fraud with you, basically, or steal your data and do fraud with you. Okay, so that is a basic idea of this information security challenges. There are certain vulnerabilities which are very akin to internets. So internet vulnerabilities are, basically internets, everything is open to everybody in a way. Unless you have things like where you can have UID and password. Unless you have some systems like that, there are internet vulnerabilities. So the network is open to everybody. The size of the internet means abuses can have wide impact. Okay, because the huge size of the internet, anybody can go and change anything or alter anything. And there are fixed internet addresses. And these are fixed, they're great targets for hackers, basically. Okay, like for instance, target.com. We are going to do a case study later on as an in-class exercise or outside class exercise nowadays. So we're going to do that, and that will tell you how these companies are vulnerable to many of these security people, in security terms, to many people around the world. You also can have encrypted voice over IP internet protocol, voice over internet. These are digital voices. These are digital telephones that you can use, and these are encrypted. Okay, And we'll talk about encryption and all later on. What is encryption and decryption and all that stuff. There are also many things that people do: intercept emails, intercept messages, and all these things. They can have attachment with malicious software that when you download, it's going to create problems. They can transmit trade secrets from you and transmit to all over the world. All these dirty things people do. Okay, so these are the vulnerabilities using internet. Now, what are the sources of these threats? The sources of these threats are: there are various computer crimes and various natural disasters, and of course human errors as well. When you have procedures, and if those procedures are not carried out properly by employees, that can be an human error. When these procedural mistakes happen and there are systems errors that happens because of that, that is also a problem. Okay, and hacking is another thing that people do. They can hack into systems and get data. Or in the natural disasters, because of the disasters, you can have some of the data which is taken off, or deleted, so you can have incorrect data recovery as well. So there are many things that happens here. So these are the threats that you can take a look at and see what are the sources of threat. Okay. Let's talk about some computer crimes. The computer crimes, one is called pretexting. Pretexting is the practice of presenting oneself as someone else so that you can get private information. It's called pretexting. Phishing is to acquire sensitive information, such as usernames and passwords. And this is actually, you can and there are a lot of people who fish around for getting these information. They will tell you, hey, come to this website, click on this and type your user ID password so that we can send you some amount of money or something like that. And that will induce people to go and do it, right? So phishing tactics are plentiful. Spoofing is a situation when one person or a program covers itself and shows us something else, falsifying data, so that to gain an illegitimate advantage. That is spoofing. Sniffing is a set of techniques used in websites and web applications to determine whether a visitor is coming in, what the visitor is doing, and what are the places that the visitor is visiting in your website, so on and so forth. Hacking is using a computer to gain unauthorized access to data in a system. So if somebody can get into the system in Roosevelt University and hack, they can take away the grades of your grades or something like that. That is hacking. Usurpation basically is usurpation basically is an unauthorized control of some part of the system. That unauthorized control can be done because of the procedures not being followed or the policies not being established and or maintained. And there are DOS attacks, which is called denial of service attacks. We talked about it before. So, and in DOS attacks, there are other things that can happen too. For instance, you can bring the network to its knees by flooding it with some useless traffic. So if you start going to a website and hitting that website a million times using a software, that can create a big traffic into the system and bog it down, right? And that is the denial of attacks. Okay, so I'm going to continue this in the next video. I'm going to put these videos in 15 minutes or less so that you can take a break. Okay, so my next video will continue on internet security.